How many of you hate administrative and repetitive tasks? How many of you feel overwhelmed just thinking about payroll management? Do you have an idea of how many hours you spend each month preparing the payslips of your employees? My name is Charlotte. I'm business analyst and HR expert at Odoo.
Hello, my name is Camille and I work in the payroll department at Odoo.
Today, we would like to show you that the Odoo Payroll application can become your best ally in the payroll management. We know that payroll is one of the biggest challenges of the HR department. Most companies rely on an external provider, thinking that's the way to do it or that they are just not able to do it by themselves. A couple of months ago, we made a big decision at Odoo. We decided that we wanted to stop externalizing something we could manage ourselves. We wanted to show our HR team that they were able to do it and that Odoo was their best ally for that. Camille is there to share with you her experience and explain how we made the transition from an external provider to the Odoo Payroll application.
During the presentation, Charlotte will show you how easy it is to use Odoo Payroll and she will shed a light on the features of the application.
Camille, do you want to start explaining the context of the transition?
Yes, of course. Before January 2021, the payroll was done via social secretariat. So at the payroll level, we had two platforms. We had Odoo, in which we kept all the information concerning the employees and their presence or their leave. We also had the social secretariat platform, in which we also had to update all the information concerning the employee. So we had to do every action twice. For example, when an employee status or salary changed, we had to change it in both in Odoo and on the social secretariat platform so that it can be taken into account in the payroll. Moreover, especially concerning the parental leave, we were not able to do every action by ourselves. So we had to go through the social secretariat to change something in the payroll. So it was a real lack of autonomy, and sometimes the delays were rather long. But since we switched to Odoo Payroll, we no longer have this problem because since every application are integrated and since every application communicates with each other, lots of things are automated and we can do the other things by ourselves.
Let's not spoil the audience yet, Camille, and let's have a look together at how this is presented in Odoo. So when I open the payroll application, I have an overview of all the contract of the active employees of my company. If I want to have more details regarding one employee, I can click on the line. And here, I have the history of all the contract of my employee. For the moment, Audrey only has one contract, but if she had more, they would appear here in the list. Here, we also have a summary of the main information regarding the latest contract of the employee. What's really great about this view is that you get directly the information that are the most important and relevant regarding the contract and the payroll management. From this view, you can also create a working schedule change, for instance, to create an amendment to a contract. So let's imagine that my employee Audrey says that from the 1st of October, she would like to start a parental leave and only work 4 days out of 5 until the 31st of January. So we can define the start date, the end date. We can choose the new working schedule. This will be her new working schedule. She will work part-time and the 5 days of the week should be registered as a parental time off. So here we see that Odoo computes automatically the new wage based on the new work time rate. Odoo also gives us the possibility to compute the new time off allocation because Audrey will only work 4 days out of 5, so we need to make sure that she won't get more time off than what she can get. And here we see that Odoo made the computation to 16 days. So let's create the new contract, and this is what happens in Odoo. We have here the line with the current contract, the running one, and it has been updated regarding the end date based on the new contract. So here we have the 30th of September as an end date because we see that the new contract starts on the 1st of October. This is the part-time contract that ends the 31st of January. And we also have a third line for the new contract after the amendment starting 1st of February. And we suppose that the new working schedule will be the same as the one before.
This is really useful because, for example, at Odoo, we have quite a few employees who decided to take a parental time off, and Odoo will help us with all these tasks.
I also think that it's a really great tool. From this view, you can also have the summary of all the payslips that have been generated for the employee, and you also have the salary attachment. Note that the salary attachment is independent to the contract, so it means that if you need to create an amendment, such as for Audrey, you don't need to recreate the salary attachment each time. It will be applied to all the contracts of the employee. So this is it for the contract part. But what's really important in the payroll is, of course, the computation of payslips and the salaries. All of this is possible in Odoo thanks to the work entries. So this is the work entries for all your employees for this month. All of this has been generated automatically from the system. You don't need to do anything. You have the attendance work entries that are generated automatically from the working time defined on the contract of the employee. And you also have the time of work entries that are generated automatically from the time of application. So let's take the example of my employee Audrey that wants to take a time off tomorrow. So let's create a time off for her. We go to the time off application. We create one time off for her. It will be a paid time off for tomorrow until Thursday. Let's apply, save, and let's approve the time off. So now we'll go back to the payroll, to the work entries, and see what happens. We now have those annual time of work entries that have been generated automatically from the system.
Before, when we had to work with the social secretariats, each month we had some mistakes and sometimes we had mismatches between our files and theirs. So we set up a pre-closing several days before the payslips, several days before the payroll, so that we could be able to see if everything was okay. It took us a lot of time and we couldn't do the correction by ourselves, so we had to go through the social secretariat to do that. It wasted a lot of time and we suffered from for the lack of autonomy, but since we switched to Odoo Payroll, we don't have this problem anymore because if there are mistakes or mismatches, the system will inform us before we can generate the payslips.
Indeed, we see here that before being to generate the payslips, Odoo warns us that we need to solve conflicts first. A conflict in Odoo happens when a time off has been taken by the employee, but it hasn't been approved or refused yet by the HR department. So the system doesn't know if we should generate an attendance work entry or a time off work entry. Conflicts can be solved from the conflicts menu, but you can also do it from the work entry view. We see here that we have this yellow warning to tell us that there's a conflict here. If we click on it, it says this work entry cannot be validated. There is a leave to approve or refuse at the same time. So let's approve it, save, and we see now that the work entry has been converted into a generic time off for Anita. So we can now generate the payslip. Let's do it. Before sending the information to the accounting department, we can verify the different payslips. So let's open them. In here, we have the different lines per employee, where we can also see the basic wage of the employee and the net wage to already have an overview and be able to check if there's a big error that was made. If we want to have more detail, we can open one payslip. And here we have a bit more of information. We have a summary, for instance, of the number of attendance work entries, the number of time off that have been taken, which one, We can see as well the attachment of salary. Here we find again the information regarding the work entries. We have the calendar view that we had previously, and we also have the salary attachment. What's really great about the payslip is this tab, the salary computation. It gathers all the rules that were applied to compute the net salary.
Indeed, before switching to Odoo Payroll, we were a bit afraid of having mistakes and not knowing how to trace them and not fully understanding the different steps of the calculation. But thanks to this view, we can see exactly the different steps of the calculation of rates, and it's really useful. On a more personal view, it's also rewarding to be more involved for this process and to gain in competence in this area. Now, I'm fully involved in the payroll process and I master this process much more.
I'm really happy to hear that, Camille. You should also note that the rules are linked to the salary structures, and we can have different salary structures in one company. So, what does that mean concretely? That in one company, you can have employees that work under different salary structure types. For instance, you have workers and you have employees at the same time. The computation of the salary will probably be different, and different rules will be applied to compute the salaries. In Odoo, this is not an issue because Odoo detects automatically what is the structure of the employee, and so it applies automatically the correct rules. So let's go back to the batch. Everything is correct. We can now send it to the accounting department. Let's create the draft entry. Yes, I want to proceed. And I can create the payment report that will generate the SEPA file I will be able to upload on the payment platform. So I've created the payment report. I have here my SEPA file that I can download. And once it has been uploaded on the payment platform, I can mark the batch as paid. And I see that now the batch is completely paid. All the payslips that have been generated are posted automatically in the document application. We have a payroll workspace where you can find all the payslips for the company. Each employee can also find his or her payslips directly on his portal. Here, for instance, if I go on my preferences on my portal, I see that I have 8 documents and I can find all my payslips. Of course, I will only see my payslips and not the one of my colleagues. So now we have generated the payslips. They are paid. Usually, this happens a couple of days before the end of the month to make sure that employees receive the money on their bank accounts at the right time. But what happens if an employee takes a time off after the payslips have been paid, but before the end of the month?
That's a question we asked ourselves too. But in fact, if an employee takes a leave after the payment, Odoo will notify us that there is a time off to defer for next month.
Let's see how those time off to defer work in Odoo. So I have paid my payslips. So let's imagine that my employee Audrey needs to take a sick time off the last days of the month. So let's take a time off for Audrey. She is sick. Okay, the last 2 days of the month. Let's save and approve the time off. Once it has been approved, Odoo automatically creates an activity for the HR responsible to warn that we need to create manually the work entry for Audrey. We have a validated time off to defer. This information can be found as well in the work entries menu. Here we see we have a warning, you have some time off to defer to the next month. So let's click on it and we have the line for Audrey. So what will happen concretely? HR will create manually the work entry for the next month to apply the time off to defer and then mark the activity as done. And you don't need to do anything else. You can go back to your normal task. This is for the time off to defer. What's really great as well about the payroll application is the reporting menu. So we have first the payroll report, where you have different analytic views that can be interesting for the management. For instance, you have this graph view where you can see the amount of all the different pay slips for the last year. You have all those interesting numbers that are computed automatically from the system, such as the paid time off, the work days, the attendance rate, the absenteeism rate. And you also have this pivot view that can be interesting if you need to make some strategic decision. For instance, if you want to see which department costs you the most, or even per department to see which employee has the higher salary in each department. Of course, you can choose which measures you decide to compare. For the Belgium localization, we have created different reports in standard that are really interesting if you don't work with the social secretariat anymore. And there are two that I really want to show you that are the notice period and the holiday attest. So let's create one. Let's imagine that my employee Audrey is not a good fit and she will leave the company, unfortunately. We select the employee. Odoo detects automatically the date of the first contract in the company. We see that based on the leaving type, the notice duration is updated. Unfortunately, Audrey is fired. We can say that the notice period starts next Monday. We can add a departure reason, not a good fit. And here we can also say if Audrey will leave after or before the notice period. If she leaves before the notice period, Odoo computes automatically for you the termination fees. So let's see. Here, Odoo automatically created the payslip to pay the termination fees of Audrey. And same applies for the holiday attest. Here, let's create the holiday attest for Audrey. We select her employee, and Odoo finds automatically the history regarding the payslips of the current year, the payslips of the previous year. Unfortunately, Audrey wasn't working at the company last year. And we have here the summary for the time off, so the allocation and the time off that have been taken. If we click on Validate and Compute Holiday Attest, we have two payslips that are generated, one for the current year and the other one for the next year to compute all the time off that will be allocated for the next years. We also have some interesting legal reports that if you work in HR, I believe those names should ring a bell. For instance, the report 274 or 28110. All of this is available in standard. In this presentation, we have shown you what a great tool the Odoo Payroll application is. I hope you have enjoyed it, but more, I hope you are ready to implement it in your company. We know that this kind of transition is a big decision, and it can raise a lot of questions and apprehensions. So, Camille, do you want to explain how you experience the transition at the different steps of the process?
Yes, of course. When it was decided at Odoo to switch to Odoo Payroll and to do our own payroll, I admit that I felt a bit stressed and apprehensive because it's very innovative to do it by yourself. And I was afraid of not having enough skills or knowledge, and I asked myself what to do in case of mistakes or in case of an error or something else. All this to say that if you have concerns, I understand because I had it too. But we were very well supported by the support and the development teams. And in the end, the transition went really well. The tool is super instinctive. Uh, Everything is done in the application to make it as easy as possible. And since the application is integrated, it communicates with each other, and lots of things are automated now. It's also, I'm proud. I am proud to gain in competence in this area and to know something that I would never know if we kept the social secretariat, and we optimize a lot. we optimize a lot our payroll since we have Odoo Payroll because we save a lot of hours every month, and we can take this time to do other HS tasks that are really important as well. So we wouldn't back for anything. We wouldn't go back for anything in the world.
Thank you so much for your input, Camille. So this is what you should remember from the Odoo Payroll application. It is intuitive, it is time-saving, and it is safe.
It is an amazing application.
For amazing employees. Thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to ask your questions in the chat on YouTube, and we'll be live in a few minutes to answer all your questions. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Charlotte. It's been amazing to see this, how this change has been operated in Odoo, and thank you also to Camille, who has also helped you during this talk. We've had a few questions, so let's dig into it. So the first question is: does the payroll application come configured with the country regulation?
So at the moment, we only have the Belgian localization that has been configured in standard, and that is available to download. But even if the localization is not available, it's always possible to implement it yourself, to personalize the database yourself.
And what do you advise when this happens? So you don't have a payroll localization. What do you do? What should the client do in that case?
Well, I would advise the customer to contact the team of Odoo, and we have great consultants that can help configure the localization package of your country. So it's easily done if you contact a consultant. We have a team that's available to help you.
And is it also possible for them to reach out to partners?
Of course, it's available. We also have partners in the different countries that might have the localization already developed in standard. It's also a possibility, yes, indeed.
Okay. So we also have a question regarding how, from the employee application, how can we know if the employee salary has been paid with the payroll app?
So actually, when the payslip have been paid and generated, we can send an automatic email to the different employees to let them know that that payslips have been paid and that they can find the document in their document application.
Okay, good. So there is indeed then an integration between the payroll and the employee application. Is there other integrations? You were showing leaves. There's also some links between them.
Yes, of course. So the application is fully integrated with the time of an employee, as we have seen. It's also integrated with the documents application, where you can find all the payslips of the employee, with the accounting, of course, to enable the accounting department to pay the different salaries. So yeah, as all applications in Odoo, the idea is to communicate with each other. Yes.
Indeed, and as you said, it's linked with the Documents app because I receive my own payslips in the Documents application.
Indeed, every month. Yes,
every
indeed.
month, like clockwork. I have another question regarding, and it's actually really interesting. People are asking, what's the minimum recommended size of a company to switch from social companies that handle usually the payroll for other companies to Odoo Payroll? What would you recommend in that case?
Well, actually, there is no minimum amount. If you wish to use the payroll application, I mean, you can install it on your database, and if the localization doesn't exist in standard, which will probably be the case, we can implement it with you. But even if you are a really small company, it's definitely feasible.
Okay, good. So actually, yeah, it's reachable for everybody.
Indeed, yes.
We were also having a question about the Mexican localization package. Is there something for that country?
Well, as I said, at the moment we only have the Belgian localization that has been developed, but we can develop it ourselves with a team of consultants, or we can contact partners, Mexican partners that probably have it already implemented.
Yeah. Okay. There is also another question regarding the calculation pay. So can we implement the calculation pay as you earn based on the country?
Well, it's again a way of computing the salary. So if this is the way your company works to pay the salary, we can definitely configure it. We have already done it for some customers. So it's something that needs to be personalized, but that can be done, yes.
Okay, cool. Next question, can we implement payroll where employees are paid based on a period rather than time?
Well, it's something the R&D team is working on. It's a feedback that we have already received. So we hope to be able to offer it to customer in the next versions of Odoo. At the moment, it's not available, but we're working on it. So we hope to have it as soon as possible.
Okay, that's good to know. Good to know. We also had a question regarding recruitment. I know it's not really related to payroll, but is there also something in Odoo to handle your recruitment process?
Yes, of course. We have the recruitment application that enable the HR department to manage all the application. You can publish your job applications online where candidates can apply directly. And we actually also have a really great application referral that is directly integrated with the recruitment application that enables the employees of your company to follow all the referrals that they have made. There's a talk about that tomorrow, so I really advise you to watch it as well.
Oh, that's good. That's good advice. Actually, I'm definitely going to watch it. I have a last question, which is more related to your own experience.
Okay.
How did you see this switch from our usual company for payroll to Odoo?
Well, actually, as an employee, it was really great. It's done really easily. The payslips are generated each month. It's really clear. We can really understand the way the salary is computed. And what's really great is that our HR department is managing the salaries themselves, so we can directly go and ask them the questions, and they can directly answer and explain us how it has been computed. So it's really great.
That's amazing. We're gonna have to end it here. If you have any other question, don't hesitate to reach into the extended Q&A meeting. You'll have the link in the chat of the talk. Thank you very much, Charlotte, for coming.
Thank you, Eva.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a nice Odoo experience.
Bye.